everybody, and welcome here at Adobe Live. I just realized my microphone was so far away. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. What's going on? What's up? Welcome back to a brand new How to Graphic Design. I'm here at Adobe Live. My name is Kladi, and I'm so excited to be here with you. I'm streaming from Manchester, UK right now. In a few days, I'm actually going to be streaming from LA, so I'm super excited to be here with you today. It's really cold in here, so if you hear me, they probably need a glass of water. It's just because winter has kicked in here in the UK. Let me know where are you watching from. I can see the chat being nice and spicy. Everybody's saying hello. Susan, Barbara, Oliver, what's up? Nice to see you. I can see also Steve. Ciao, Steve. Lovely to see you here. Suzanne, Katarina. Of course, if you're watching from YouTube, don't forget to jump on behance.net/live. That is the place where I can read your chat and say hello. And of course, you can always subscribe on the YouTube channel to watch these and many other exciting videos that are live during all the hours here at Adobe Live. You can watch and catch the replay as well on the YouTube channel. So I recommend to subscribe, and then during the live, you can join here on Behance. Also today, we're going to be talking, and you're going to see me browsing on Behance quite a lot because I love to leverage this community. I'm super excited and honored to be part of this community. Thank you to everybody that joins here on Behance. We always, as I say, this is a safe space where we all learn together. I felt always so welcome. I have so much love from you guys, and you know that the love comes back with our time together. And thank you so much for joining me here. So as I said, this is a brand new episode of How to Graphic Design. It's an introduction to graphic design for beginners. So I'm just going to walk you very briefly because I don't want to give information that you can find online, everybody can read. I just wanted to give you like a brief introduction, and then I'm going to jump into some examples on Behance. And that's what I said, use Behance to showcase your work. I'm more and more looking for artwork designer and other people works. It's basically like my design Google. So share your project because you might be featured next time. And what else? We're going to be jumping into the introduction of InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, what are these software about, and how to set up a document. So if you're a beginner, this is definitely a class for you, one not to miss, to get just like a little bit of an understanding of, what is the environment in designing graphic design. First of all, let me see if there is any question in the chat. You are welcome to ask any question also about Freelance Live. I now run a business here in the UK and in the US. I started as a freelance. I actually started working as a printer myself. So please feel free to ask any question you might desire during this time about graphic design, about a project. We can also dive in. I've got some project to show you to, because of course, I know that the audience is beginner and maybe some of you are also advanced. I have some cool project. So if you want, we can just jump into the project as well. If there is anything in particular, maybe that you are preparing from something as simple as an icon in Illustrator to something as more complex as an animation in Photoshop. Maybe passing by a menu done in InDesign. So we're going to go through over these topics. Before doing so, maybe you want to start to open your InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator. If you don't have the apps, because sometimes it's the case, I have some comments and messages that talk about, hey Kladi, I do not have the apps. Well, just head on adobe.com and you will be able to download a free trial, which is perfect for this session for you to get started. So Cody, I'm so glad you noticed that. I have a massive 7-year-old Monstera at home. I might show you some photos. Actually, if you can go on my Instagram, you'll probably see some photos of that. Talking about Instagram, this is also a place where you can reach out and say hello. And if you're looking for a more short way of gathering information, probably that might be the best place for you. I'm currently, let me go ahead and jump into my desktop so probably you can see it. I am currently publishing daily tutorials in Illustrator, Photoshop, general stuff like also trending color palettes, trending fonts. So here you can find so much information if you maybe want to learn a little bit more, or you want to dive in different tools with these wonderful apps and techniques. Also, this stream is really open. I have so many assets. So if you have a specific tool in the app that you're looking to learn, use this time, use this chat together, ask your questions, safe space to learn. I'm very open to your suggestions. I'm very open to your requests because I'm here to help you and I'm here to listen to you. So please do use the chat to have your requests. Maybe we can try to, how to vectorize an image, or how to trace an image, or how to change the color of an artwork, or how to create a 2 columns document in InDesign, or how to change layout, or how to remove a background. There are so many things that we can do in this wonderful app. But before we get started, let me do a quick introduction about graphic design. Then we're going to talk about Max, because it's coming up. I can't believe it is a week away. Time flies. And I'm really, really excited to be there. I will be there both in person and online, but we're going to talk about Max in a moment. I first want to dive in this little presentation that I've created for you, and Bailey, about what is graphic design. Of course, this is too Kladi in one. It's a little bit too much. Let's move on. So what is graphic design in very general terms? So art, and I always say like in Italian, actually, because as you probably got it from the accent, I'm not from the UK, although I'm here right now. I'm actually from a small village in the south of Italy. The actual graphic design terms, it doesn't really exist. It's more about like planning, and that is the real definition of graphic design: the practice of planning a project ideas and experiences into a visual context. I personally, this is a generic definition that has been given by the American Institute of Graphic Arts, so I just wanted to give you, the statements of what is the industry definition of graphic design. And then I also want to give you my take. So my take is, I call design and graphic design visual translation. My business is called Printmysoul, and that is the reason why I decided to call Printmysoul. Print in the archaic sense of marking, so actually marking the soul of anything. It can be an artist, it can be a company, it can be a product, but what graphic design does is translate the concept, the words, the product, anything that is physical in something that is intangible. And in fact, we're going to dive in real quick here into the elements, how the translations happen. So how graphic design, this discipline that allows you to plan ideas and transform it into an experience within a visual and textual content. And of course, here we see, all the different things that we can do with graphic design. We can implement it in different media. So we can use design for print. We can use design for web, maybe on website. It helps connect a company with their consumer, because we're actually producing element that transform this idea into a project that will land into the user, into the consumer, so allows the point of contact between the original brand and then the final product, and conveys a message. And that's exactly why I'm talking about translation. The message is usually something that is made by words, or is made by actions, or is made by product. What design does is lift all these very physical items and very tangible items, and lifts them up and translates them by just simply a glimpse of an eye. Designs allow you to perceive information, so your brain understand through the power of your eyes, of your senses. It could be a noise, it could be a full experience. I've actually been to IKEA recently, and I've actually seen the power of the integrated design. In this case, it wasn't not only graphic design, it was interior design, sound design. They planned the experience with smells, with sounds. Wherever you walk, you see the mood. And that's why we usually tend to call our planning phase mood board, because we're going to go and discover the mood of whatever is the product, the company, or the message that we want to translate into a design. Of course, here we talk a little bit more. As I said, I don't want to spend too much time in this writing information, because you can find it online. I can make these slides available for you. You can take a screenshot. I'm going to move out of screen, so maybe you can take a second to take a screenshot about this information that I put together, and how design allows you to translate all these tangible elements in more intangible items. Well, Those are the main tools that you can use in conjunction in order to bring the mood and to express the message, or you can also use them in contrast to stimulate even more emotion. So that is one of the goals of design, really to trigger a reaction. And let me see if there is any questions in the chat. I know you guys are used to a more practical stream. I thought today, especially with coming the Adobe Max, I know that a lot of you are just starting. So I just thought it would have been quite exciting to learn more about the core elements of design together during this time together. Let me know if there is any questions so far. I'm super happy to reply in the chat. That's what I was saying. So how this translation happens. This translation happens thanks to colors, thanks to shapes, lines, text, form, space, and texture. So those are the elements that we tend to organize whenever we create a project in graphic design, either being a flyer, either being a post. We're going to jump into Adobe Express real quick as well today, because Express really allows you to grasp and to create a lot of things by using these elements, by giving you access to these graphic design elements, even if you're not a designer. So that's really, really cool. And those are the rules. They are so-called graphic design principles that will allow you success of your design. And I cannot stress enough the importance of these foundations. Even me, whenever I have a question regarding a project, because maybe it's not working right, there is something that doesn't feel right, I always come back to this principle. Following the principles really will help you to have a better idea of what are the choices that you can make with design. We're going to jump into Behance real quick because I spotted a project that focuses exactly on these design principles. There are so many examples out there. I thought that just by doing more, it was just a repetition. I'm much more interested to see and take the approach of other artists, and maybe we can discuss it together. And then we're gonna have to jump, I'm just looking at the time, we're gonna have to jump into the app because I really want to show you how to leverage the power of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign in order to create a project that are fit graphic design project that are fit to your purpose, and they will allow you to translate and to communicate whatever is the goal of your project using different medias, so either printing or web. So the principle here are balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, proportion, and rhythm. Emphasis is also called hierarchy the majority of the time. So balance is the way we distribute and we balance the element, either if it be a website or maybe the page, maybe it's a newspaper, maybe it's an advert, maybe it's a flyer. How do we balance? How we distribute the element in space? Contrast, and actually I think that probably it's time to right now jump into this page here because that will give you a more visual perception of everything that I'm talking about. And big shout out, and that's the reason why I do mention to you, please publish your work on Behance. Behance.net is a place. All you need is an email address, is a free service. You can publish your work and you will be featured. Here I found this lovely work by Grace Prussia. So big shout out to Grace. Go ahead and give her a follow, and I'm gonna actually do that myself right now. That has created a booklet to, again, so here she has put the design into practice by expressing the design principle. And I love that we can see a little bit of behind the scene as well. I find it really, really compelling to see how we explore the design. And you do not need to be an illustrator. You do not need to know how to draw in order to learn how to design. As you can see, sketches can be made on pencil, and they just need to be there in order to drive and guide our idea to form towards the final. So that's why it's so important to sketch, and that's another reason why I choose this project as well, because it just gives you an idea of how her mind was developing around the project and her choices were getting together. So here you can also see in our booklet, I'm just going to go one by one, Grace has decided to choose different shapes, simple black and white approach to describe each different principle. As I said before, the distribution of the element, in this case, she mentioned the page, but that can also be, a social media items or a website. So the way that we distribute the element around our confined perimeter, it can also be a location. So we can also find balance when we set the furniture inside our room. So maybe we have balance by having the drawer in a certain place around your bed. How do we balance this information around your space? Contrast is, of course, the difference, which is very easily achieved with colors. Again, here, black and white create contrast, light versus dark, busy versus empty. Everything that is in contrast, everything that clashes, usually tend to grab people's attention. So this is very nice to be used, again, depending on what is your final goal. Of course, each one of these principles can be used in both directions, and there is no right or wrong. Those are elements that we need to be aware of when we design, but also we need to be aware of how to use them, because more contrast or less contrast, there is no right or wrong between the two of them. It just depends on what you want to create. If you want to create something that is high contrast, of course, it will determine a much higher emotional response rather than with something that's got less contrast and will give you a more relaxed approach to your design. Of course, if we want to create something that is for a yoga studio, I might choose less contrast. And you can see my tone of voice changes as well, because what I'm trying to communicate here is that with less contrast, we'll have a smooth experience that will be more calming when we absorb the information from our design. As an opposite, when we want to create something that has more movement, or maybe something that is about action sports or something that is very exciting, we want to use bright colors that clash together, maybe some fluorescent orange, maybe some red and yellow, or simply black and white to create emphasis, which is the same that is coming here. Again, harmony, similar object, similarities in visual object. This also goes together with balance. Hierarchy is very important, and this is a principle that is also specially connected with text. If you're starting InDesign, you will hear this coming from your lecturer, from your boss, from your creative director, from your senior designer, because this is so much used when creating text. Hierarchy is so important to establish which are the most important elements of our design. So hierarchy establishes which is the content that is the most important one, the first one that we really want to understand. So, for example, a logo usually tends to be a very important information during a promotional, or the name of the brand, or the name of the product, or the product itself. If we're talking about advertising, for example, let's pick an advertising of a shoe. You will really want the shoe to be at the center of the page, because that will be the number one hierarchy. Whenever I started my design career, I used to get all the elements from the brief. So we need to have an image, we need to have a call to action, so maybe some text, then we need the website. I always ask my client to number for them what is the top priority. So it could be the image, it could be the text. And of course, once you learn what is the priority in your communication, so what is important, what needs to be perceived first, they will usually take the center of the page, the top of the page, and they will be definitely in larger dimension, usually far away from the rest of the clutter of information. And this is so important when create paragraph style. We're going to have a little look at paragraph style once we jump in InDesign. Time goes so fast, because this will allow you to create paragraph style and enough contrast, and you will going to put together contrast and hierarchy, because these elements never go on their own, in order to create an organized way of displaying the text. So we have the title that is more important, then we have the subtitle, and then we have the text, so we can guide people attention for our most important document. And here, let's move on into movement, which is the relationship between shapes. So this is a twist on balance. Balance tends to be and talk with symmetry and harmony, while movement is usually leverage the power of contrast and space. So as you can see, those principles also work together. So of course, here we have this contrast with the space. So we have negative space, which is empty over here, and then we have a cascade of elements that are linked together coming through the page, giving the idea of movement. fantastic. And as I said, the space is coming as next, and that's the choice of an area and a composition that gives the opportunity of focus on different elements. And this links back to what we were talking about before, hierarchy. So of course, giving space to something and put it at the middle of the page, that will really propel the attention that you delivered to that specific page, to the specific item in the page. Okay, so thank you so much, Grace, for this beautiful iteration here. Go ahead and give her a follow. There is so much going on in terms of wonderful. If we just select Principle of Design and you search inside Behance, as I said, Behance is now my Google for images and for design. There is so much more that you can find. There is also, I've seen one before when I was doing my research, that it was about icons, the principle to create icons. I think is here. Here we go. So feel free to go and explore. This is from Dima Groshev. I want to give a shout out to Dima as well, which goes into details depending on specific items. In this case, we're talking about icons, which I'm not going to dive in today. Today, we're just going to keep it nice and general. Here we can see more work from Mike Davis. Again, giving an idea of alignment, how we distribute element in shape, and how we create symmetry. Hierarchy, again, this is the most important, and then we go to less important item. Contrast, in this case we have colors and shapes. Balance, repetition, and white space. So you can see different people named it in a different way. That's why I didn't want to create anything specific. I like to be flexible, and I like to see what the industry really talks about when we talk about design principle. And I wanted to recommend you to use Behance to search this information besides the simple Googling, because I think Behance gives you right away an international approach to be informed and to see what is really out there right now in the industry. Annika, lovely to see you. We have Annika in the chat, and I'm actually going to take a moment let me know in the chat, first of all, if you find this information useful. We're going to jump into the app and start to learn about the workspaces and also how to set up a document in just a second in both Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. Hopefully we're going to make it. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say hi to Annika, to also jump into Adobe Max real quick. If you haven't registered to Adobe Max, please do it. Adobe Max Online is free. So I know that I'm probably ringing in your ear now because I got really close to the microphone, but I've done it on purpose because I don't want you to miss this opportunity. So if you're cooking, if you're getting a coffee, if you're maybe listening but not watching, this is the time in which you come to the screen and really, really take advantage of this time and register to Adobe Max. All you need is an email, and it gives you access to mind-blowing worldwide top designers are at Adobe Max to share their workflow, their knowledge. We have the brand new Adobe 2023 Photoshop, InDesign, the entire Creative Cloud with all the updates. The new releases are coming up in October, launching on October 18th till the 20th. It's going to be live in Los Angeles. I will be there, and I look forward to meet you there. And of course, I'm going to be also online. I'm going to be with Adobe Live, giving you first takes in photography. But besides me and beyond me, there is a community of wonderful artists that are there at your doorstep. You can take advantage of this opportunity online. Of course, the conference in LA is paid, but the conference online is for free. So all you have to do is to simply sign in with an email address, and you're done. And you can see here what is so important is for you to build your own schedule. You can either jump into sessions or into speaker. This year, I'm so thankful to be part of the featured headliners. So I'm alongside all these amazing, talented people. You can see, you can find me there, and here you can find all my different sessions. So I'm there with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions. I think there is a six session as well that is repeating because one of them is sold out. You want to go ahead and click on each session, and then from there you will be able to register and either watch it live or watch it from LA, from if you're actually in person there. Of course, you can also get into my website, which, by the way, I'm going to give you an idea real quick. If you're starting in design, my website probably is a place where you want to land, because I have a lot of graphic design, quick start, deep course in InDesign. If you want to know how to work in InDesign, that is the place to get started. Same in Illustrator, same in Photoshop as well. We have the replays of the episode of how to. If you want to learn more about how to, just send me your design request. There is a very small form that you can use. And also there are a ton. It's like, I think 4 years that I'm filling this page with freebies. There is a ton of templates, a ton of Photoshop mockups, cheat sheet for Behance, cheat sheet for social media, poster template. There is so much here, and all this is for free for you to grab. How to create a GIF, how to get started with InDesign, all different sessions which are usually linked to a video as well, animation, composition, so on. So really, I have no idea myself how much stuff I have there that is for you to grab for free at iamkladi.com/resources. But also, most importantly, you can access directly my session at Adobe Max by clicking on each one of the sessions. You will be able to actually access the video here, and of course register. So don't forget to sign in. This year I'm talking about animation in Photoshop, and I'm actually gonna give you, I don't know if we have time to go through all that I've planned for you. Here's my video editor with a composition that I wanted to show you. Hi, Jamie. That's a photo that we created here in the studio. And this is a little preview of something that I will show at Max. So I was really, really excited to give you a little bit of this. There we go. Let's see if that's the right one here. So I will show you how to animate, not this specific graphic, although this graphic is part of my presentation, but I will show you how to animate anything you want in Photoshop, which I think is very, very cool. And I'm sure, sorry if I didn't give you the full experience there. Let's see if I can actually do that real quick. So again, this is just part of the fun and of the things that you can create using this wonderful app. Okay, so we talked about Max, we talked about the principle of design. It's time to jump in each single app and have a little dive in on how to get started with each single app. Let me know if there is any question. Steve is saying our man Frank Baum is made some super cool version of the Max logo. Steve, I want to see them. Where I can find them. I will love to see it. Scene is saying I will be there, can miss it. Scene, you will be there in person or you will be there online. If you're there in person, I would love to meet up. And let's see, Errol says hi. And for those of you who are just joining, for those of you that are just joining today, we had a little bit of a get started with InDesign. I will make the slide that I prepared available also on my website. Why not add one more freebies for you guys? And we talked about a little bit of an introduction. What is graphic design? What is useful for? I really wanted to give you my personal take on the visual translation aspect of graphic design. We talked about the principle, why they're useful, the main elements that allow you to make this transition happen. But now let's talk about how we translate that and how to create this project thanks to the Adobe app. So I'm going to start by InDesign, which is at the moment, and it's been for fairly many years, the standard software for creating layouts. So in this case, we're talking about print design, but also interactive media. In fact, you can use InDesign not only for print, you can create a web PDF, interactive PDF, and also interactive document. This is one of my sessions at Max. I will be showing how to create an interactive style guide. By the way, Steve, feel free to, if you can, DM me on Instagram. If you want to get in touch with me, either here during the live is a great way of working together and to talk, but also if you want to send me some link, I would recommend you to go on my Instagram at IamKladi and DM me there, whatever you want. That's really where you can grab my attention, because I spend a lot of time with my team to make sure that we get back to everybody that gets in touch with us through Instagram. Okay, so as I said, and as you can see from the homepage, once you launch InDesign, you have here the opportunity to start from preset, which allow you to design for the page. So for the printed page, in this case A4, which is mirrored the American letter page. Then we have iPad Pro, so this is for web already or website as well. So InDesign goes beyond the printed page, allowing you to create documents for the web and for screen that also have wonderful things like buttons, all sorts of interactions, links, mail to, or even videos. But if you're completely new to this app, how do you get started? Well, I can probably spend 5 hours just talking about InDesign, but I want to try to keep it short and simple because we have only half an hour less, even a little bit less than half an hour, and I want to make sure that I go through each one of the app, maybe open a project in each one of the app, and show you also the workspace. Wang, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here. Again, if you have any question, please, this is the time for you to ask maybe any question about my background, about how I started the business. I tend to get a lot of this question usually in private. I'm here with you today, I'm live. So use this time and use the chat to really ask the questions that you want. And even if there is a specific project, as I said, I'm going to showcase random projects here to give you an idea of how the app works. So if there is something that you're working on right now and maybe you need some help, use this time to ask questions in order to learn more together. Perfect. So let's get started. Here, whenever you open your welcome page or your home page in InDesign, in order to get started, you can press the Ctrl or Command N, or simply click on the New File blue button to open a new document. Of course, if you are just starting and you want to learn more, you can have access to this Learn tab, which allows you to have right access in many tutorials available on the web, where you can learn specific actions like a general getting started introduction, how to format text, how to apply color, how to create multiple page documents, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a new file. And here, what you want to really have a look at doing these in this new file window are what are called intent. So the intent here is splitting between saved, print, web, or mobile. And this is so important whenever you create any project. That's why the first word that is used to describe graphic design is planning. So you want to plan ahead. You very rarely jumped and just create something that it turned to be perhaps meaningless. You really want to plan ahead. What is the objective? And not only what is the objective, but also what is the final purpose of your design? Is it going to land on paper? Is it going to land on a 3D object, on a packaging? Is it going to land on a product? Is it going to land on a web page? Is it going to land on a mobile? Is it going to land, where is it going to go? So remember, fit for purpose. I used to take a lot of phone calls when I used to work to a printer, and I used to remind the client and remind the designer that were working with me that if we understand what is the purpose of our design at the early stage, this is going to save us so much time, because we're already starting by setting up a file that is going to set us up for success by determining right away the settings of our project that will match the final output. So let's see here. How does one work creatively on their PC as a 9 to 5? Find the time to do more personal projects, sketches after working the day. Well, you're talking with someone that works something like 96 hours per week, which I'm not saying that I suggest to do. But I come from a completely different background. So I studied marketing and PR. I used to work at the UN and do graffiti. I always say that graphic design saved my life. Because it put together my arty, museum, very visual background that I developed by traveling around the world and visiting all sorts of museums and events and painting on walls, and my marketing and PR brain, which is more strategic. So graphic design put those together, allow me to plan, visual items. So that's where I was lucky to encounter graphic design and develop my business. I work a lot. I'm very passionate. Nearly obsessed. I think with something as healthy as art and as healthy as design and work, it's good to have an obsession. Of course, within the limitation of being tired. But when you're really driven and you really want to create a project, you'll find the time. For example, now I'm preparing for Adobe Max. I love going to the gym. I love training, or I love to see my friend. But I'm sticking to rehearsing and working. Although I have my clients, I have my 9 to 5 with my business, and then I prepare events, or I'm writing for a book, or I'm illustrating. I take Sundays. Sundays is my favorite day to work on my personal project. Take a full day, and if you cannot do any week, every other week, whatever little time you find, just don't give up with the excuse that you do not have the time. Talking about time, we really got to move on because we need to go and through all the other app. But thank you so much for the question. I think that's really, really important. And it's a struggle to start with. I started with 3-shift job. I was working in a cafeteria. I was working in a cafe at the same time, and into a jeans shop, into a mall here in Manchester, while working and studying graphic design. And, I lived in a 1-room bedroom studio, and I had the same place in the kitchen, was the same place where I was sleeping on the couch, and the desk was also my office. So it is always a hard start. It's a hard start for everybody. It's definitely been a hard start for me. I'm a really hardworking person, and I can tell you that if you really put your heart and your head and your time into it, it will pay off. Fantastic. So I'm going to go back here. We're talking about fit for purpose, but thank you so much, Derek, for your question. I hope that I helped you and I inspired you to find that time to pursue your project and really, dive into your passion, because that's what is going to keep you going, even if you're tired. Okay, so here, once you decide which project do you want to work for, in this case, I'm going to set my intent for print for this example. I'm going to go ahead, and then you have different options. One of them is to view all the presets that you can choose in order to right away access the most common print presets. For example, A5, which is also at half letterhead. And you will see that, first of all, once we select and we toggle between print and web, what happens here is that the presets detail, the project settings are changing. Because as I said, InDesign is going to set us up for success by changing the units. Depending if we're working for web, we're going to have units in pixels. If we're working for print, our units will be in millimeters. And by the way, because time is going way too fast, I just want to give you an heads up that this works exactly the same in Illustrator and Photoshop. So you have here at the top, and actually let me do it. Why don't you let's do it this way. I didn't plan it to do it cross app, but why not to do it cross app? I think that's really, really interesting. I've never actually done that. Showcasing all the app at the same time. So let's go here and click on new file. So as you can see, it's always new file per each one of them. And here we have our new document. So let's go ahead and have a look. And the InDesign one we have saved, which are the previously one that you saved, print, web, and mobile. Then if we jump into Illustrator in terms of intent, we have a little bit more, because Illustrator is a different app compared to InDesign. As I say, InDesign is the industry standard to create layouts, while Illustrator is the industry standard for creating vector graphic. Vector graphic are very different from photography and any other rasterized image, because each single point of our design is a mathematical equation that will allow us to scale our design from something as simple and small like a little logo that goes on a business card. You can use the same file to create t-shirt, to create walls, to create massive banners, as tall as a building. So this is the main difference between Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. Illustrator is the only app that allows you to create scalable graphics, vector graphics, and this is the one that is mainly used to create logos, again, because we want to really be flexible when we create a logo. We want to be able to modify it and to change it without incurring in what is usually called pixelation, otherwise known as loss of quality of our images, because when we zoom in on a physical image, like in Photoshop, those are physical pixels. So whenever we stretch them, we're just going to end up, looking blurry. While in Illustrator, you will maintain your graphic looking crisp, because there actually are stretching, and they are literally multiplying themselves in space. Okay, perfect. So I'm just looking at the chat to see if there is any other question. And as I said here, you can also create for video and film, art and illustration, and find more templates. Well, if we jump into Photoshop, of course, we have specific setting for photography, and then again, print, art and illustration, because you can draw and do so many amazing things, web, mobile, and film and video. So you can see we have a similar, definitely the same layout for the new document panel, but of course, different specific settings. So I just want to jump. I cannot believe the time. We literally have less than 50 minutes. I want to create at least one document in each one of these app. So with with InDesign, I always get them swapped together. With InDesign, once we select a specific preset, so we selected print, we selected preset, here you can choose also your own size, or just simply determine the size from the preset. You can also access, maybe if you're starting, presets from Adobe stock. They're free, they're there for you to download. In this case, we have a colorful shop brochure layout. You can see it in the preview and then simply open it, and it just will open for you a template that you can modify. And I would suggest that as a general, like, have a play around, just open a template. Is there for you. All you have to do is to see the preview, maybe download it, open it up, and they will allow you to have an idea of how the elements are present inside the workspace in InDesign. Okay, so other important information here from a new document panel are, of course, the number of pages. You can choose as many pages as you want, and also don't forget that those settings, you're not signing your life away with them. You can always change them even after the project. So this is nice to just sort of, like, as I said, set yourself up for success by starting right away with the right foot and getting as much as you can done right as you start. But then you can also change these settings. In this case, we chose an item for print, so the intent for print, and that's why we have our bleed. Our bleed is the area that sits outside the margin of the document. So just going to go ahead and use this as an example. So let's imagine that we're printing this texture background. If we did not put a bleed and our printer by mistake end up cutting our page wrong, what happens is that we tend to have this little white border. If you pick up flyers, I'm sure you will find flyers that have this weird white background that pops around the edges, and maybe has happened to you before. Well, the way that you can get away without showing this mistake is by simply extending. So let's imagine that we are, creating these little booklet design. So we applied this texture to the page. All we have to do is to extend the background of your image of about 3 millimeter, that is 0.125 inches, and this is the standard. Of course, you can make it as big as you want, but I think the standard is 3 millimeter. You can find this option, and we're going to see it real quick by clicking on preview here. What does it mean? It will extend your document area outside the main trim line. So this black line here that you can see inside the document, this is the trim line where your printer will cut your page there, just right there. While these, we're going to talk about margin in just a second. This is the magenta line, and this red line are the 3 millimeter border that allow you to extend the area of your background. So if the printer ends up cutting a little bit ahead or a little bit low, let's imagine that this is part of the same paper. Now, because this paper is not white, because we extended our background, even if the printer cuts it wrong, we will not have any white paper showing through. So nobody's gonna know that you have or the printer has made a mistake. You're literally walking ahead in order to make sure that the mistake is not visible. And then, as I said before, we have our margin there. The margin will allow you to determine a safe area. So again, nothing of the most important content. Remember, we talked about balance. We talked about distributing the content around the page, hierarchy. Everything that is high importance inside the document will have to sit inside this safe area determined by the margin. And by the way, the margin are a great way of also framing your content. They literally work like a little frame, and they focus the side towards the inside and the center of the document. There is no specific right and wrong. I always try to say that as much as possible. It all depends on the project that you're working on. So experiment, experiment, experiment. And you can set the margin here, just right there. You will see that they change as I increment the margin there. Now, real quick before we go, we can also decide to select facing pages. Facing pages allow us to have two pages sitting next to each other. And in fact, look what happens. If I do select facing pages, the margin will change from, let me just deselect it first. So if I deselect facing pages, we have top, bottom, left and right margin. But if I do select facing pages, of course, I'm talking about maybe a book. So we have pages that go inside the binding, and therefore our, I have no idea what my notes are about, but all the pages that get tucked in inside the binding, we will have to have a different consideration for it. So of course, whenever we select facing pages, our margin will change from left and right to outside and inside. And your inside margin is always supposed to be a little bit larger than the outside margin, because again, you need to take in consideration the pages that get tucked in inside. Let me go ahead and perhaps use this one, either inside the fold or inside the binding. So always allowed a little bit more if you're working with facing pages. Perfect. So let's go ahead and create, and that's our first document. And I cannot believe that we have less than 10 minutes left. So I'm just gonna show you real quick what a document looks like. You can toggle the visibility. Maybe if you're opening one of the templates with a letter W, you can see the normal view, and then with the letter W on your keyboard, and that works both on Mac and on the Windows. You can swap in between the normal view and the preview mode. So in the preview mode, you'll be able to see the margin, the columns, and all the text and so on. In the preview mode, everything goes away and you have a preview of the final page. I don't know if we're going to be able to get back into InDesign, but I want to give you an heads up. The upcoming how-to will be dedicated to each single one of the apps. So we're going to have a session full in InDesign 2023, revealing the brand new InDesign 2023. So with everything that is going to be revealed at Max, of course, the new how-to is going to be after Max. So after Adobe releases the brand new app, I will be here to show you each single app. And most importantly, we're going to dive into the brand new features. So this was just an introduction for everybody to join in, hopefully join Max, and then come back to how to and really have a deep look at the apps. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the same document. I have 10 minutes and I want to show you, maybe we can finish with some fun animation just because it's a little bit different. So hi RB, what's up? Nice to see you here. Thank you so much for joining. So let's go ahead and create a document here in Illustrator. In this case, in Illustrator, we do not have pages, we have artboards, and the artboards are the place that will determine the area of our design. Here we can choose the orientation or the artboards, the number of artboards. We have, as I said before, we talked about intent. We can decide what is the final output. In this case, I'm going to choose web. You will see that again here, if we choose different settings, print will showcase millimeter or inches, web will jump right away into pixels. You can bump up the raster effect to 150, which is also please the eye for the retina displays, and this is just the resolution of your image. Of course, that's something very important that I want to specify. Working with colors, color space when we work with print and web, probably we should have seen that before. Let's go ahead to our InDesign document and let's go to File and Document Setup to go back and edit the document setup. What I want to show you here, let me see if we can see more details regarding the colors, but we probably would have seen that in the original page. We have 300 dpi, just a little bit more information. We talked about bleed, we talked about margin, we talked about trim line, bleed line. So 300 dpi will be the resolution for a document ready for print. While whenever we move into screen, we move to either 72, which is the standard resolution for print, up to 150 ppi. Okay, so here, same thing. You can find one of the preset or one of the templates, icon, text, all sort of things that you can create for this scalable vector graphic. We talked about what is a vector graphic a moment ago. If you're joined now, unfortunately we are like nearly 5 minutes to the end. Go back and watch the stream today. I'm going to recap in just a moment. Color mode, RGB versus CMYK. RGB, additive method of red, green and blue. Those are the colors that allows our screen to be visible by producing light, versus the printing method with CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow. K stands for black, the key color in printing, setting up a printing machine. And of course, those are two different methods. If we go ahead and select print, you will see that automatically Illustrator will set up for success by changing the color mode right away into CMYK and the raster effect in 300 ppi. So I'm going to go ahead, in this case, stick for web. You can choose the number of artboard that you want. And in this case, if you want, you can add bleed. I do not usually work with bleed whenever I work with a document for web. But if you require a safety net for your background, that is definitely the way to go. Use bleed in order to extend your document and make sure that you have no white line and everything is centered to go. So I'm going to change my effect to 150 ppi and click on create. And we will look how this document looks like here. So we have these artboards, and as again, you're not signing your life away. Shift O to access the artboard tool. You can move the artboard, press enter in order to access the option. And if you perhaps want to change, so maybe you want to make this into an Instagram story, so 180 by 1920 is the size. By the way, you can find on my website a ton of cheat sheet for social media with all the most common sizes, and then simply click on OK. You will be able to resize your artboard at any time. And you can also access more properties regarding your artboard thanks to the properties panel, which will allow you to dive in each single property of anything that you can select. And here, you can go ahead and watch many of my streams that will show you how to use shapes and vector points in order to create anything you want in InDesign. So unfortunately, we have 3 more minutes. I wanted to do here is to create, let's just create a little modification here. I'm going to go ahead and jump into, let me see, here I had like a little bit more of a complex shape. This is something that I use for my video, for my Instagram. This was fully created in Illustrator. Again, if we jump back into my Instagram reel, there is a full tutorial on how to make the rainbow. If you want to go ahead and have a start with that, let me see, it should be down here. Yeah, I've been using a polar grid, so this is a specific tutorial. Everything that I'm talking about, you can jump back into my Instagram, you can jump back into my website, and then dive into whatever resonates with you, resonates with your career ideas, with your project, and wherever you want to go with your graphic design career. And here I can go back into Photoshop to show you how to set up, in this case, a photo document. We're working in centimeter because we assume that this is probably going to be a specific photo format. You can choose all the different default size for photography. Of course, don't forget to name your file every time here. I've not been naming it because I think that that's perhaps the most obvious one. Of course, if you're using your images for web, I would prefer to select web. And again, here you can choose your resolution and even the size. You can choose a specific size. I'm going to again choose my Instagram story reel effect, 1080 by 1920, 150 resolution, RGB color mode. Perfect. I'm ready and set up to create my image for web, and then go ahead and click on create. And here, although we have the opportunity to work with canvas, I'm just going to go ahead real quick and create another one. Sorry, with artboard like we did in Illustrator. We usually work with this area which is called canvas. Now in Illustrator we have all this pasteboard wherever you can move and see objects that are all over your document, while in Photoshop everything that falls outside the canvas. So I'm going to press the letter U and create a simple rectangle. Everything that falls outside this canvas will be hidden. Everything that you can see is automatically trimmed to size. And also this is a real size, as we were talking before, the difference between pixel and raster. So the physical pixels cannot be stretched, otherwise it gets pixelated, because again we start to see all these little puzzle of squares that make up our image, while with vector we're able to scale infinitely our graphics without changing or without making them pixelated. Okay, unfortunately, it is time to say goodbye. I hope that this introduction was useful for you guys. We managed to create a document. I wanted to create so much more. I'm just gonna give you a little bit, hopefully, of excitement. I'm just gonna show you just real quick. There's probably perhaps a moment here. So what I wanted to show you is that this image that we created with our lovely Jamie, which is our video editor here. I wanna see if I can get to the original image. This was a collage of, I don't think there is the original image here, but this was an original photo, and it was done in our studio living room. And then we ended up building it into a full composition with a background, with smoke effect. If you want to learn more about this, there is a specific session that I've done at Max last year of creating similar composition with painting in smoke as well. And don't forget that this year at Max, I will be showing you also how to create Illustrator in order to, Photoshop in order to create animation. It is really time for me to say goodbye. I will catch you at Adobe Max. Don't forget to go on max.adobe.com, register, sign up for my classes, and hopefully I will meet you there. Otherwise, we'll be back here at Adobe Live with a brand new episode of How To. Don't forget to stick around for more design awesomeness here at Adobe Live. Goodbye, everybody. I will see you soon. Ciao.